Reading from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Canto 2, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Text 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Garbha-saṅkarṣaṇāt tambai prāhuḥ saṅkarṣaṇaṁ bhuvi. Rāmeti loka-ramaṇād balabhadraṁ balocchrayāt. The son of Rohiṇī will also be celebrated as Saṅkarṣaṇa because of being sent from the womb of Devakī to the womb of Rohiṇī. He will be called Rāma because of his ability to please all the inhabitants of Gokula, and he'll be known as Balabhadra because of his extensive physical strength. Purport. These are some of the reasons why Balaram is known as Saṅkarṣaṇa. Balaram or Ram. These are some of the reasons why Balaram is known as Saṅkarṣaṇa, Balarama, and sometimes Ram. In the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. People sometimes object when Ram is accepted as Balaram. But although devotees of Lord Ram may object, they should know that there is no difference between Balaram and Lord Ram. Here in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam clearly states that Balaram is also known as Rama, Rāmeti. Therefore, it is not artificial for us to speak of Balaram as Lord Ram. Jayadev also speaks of the three Rams, Parashuram, Raghupati Ram, and Balaram. All of them are Rama. Omagana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Taksur Unmalatam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadhamayam Tadati Sapadantikam Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, greetings from Brick Township, New Jersey, near Point Pleasant, which we have our really nice little ashram here. Yeah. Today I'll go up to Hartford just for a day. I will probably on the way, the train stops in New Haven, I'll spend a little time with Ekachakra, then return tomorrow. The best laid plans of mice and men often go astray. John Steinbeck, American author, wrote the book of Mice and Men. I'm not sure where that quote comes from. It's definitely in the book, but it's like that. A man proposes and God disposes. Is that it? We really, more and more in this crazy world, we have to cultivate detachment, which simply means to be satisfied with Krishna's will. Nothing harsh. It's nothing that we have to do to ourselves. It's what's happening to us. And we just have to be satisfied with devotion, which can be executed in any circumstance. Otherwise, we'll always be disappointed. Yeah, I was planning on going up there for I think almost a week, but things happened and it wasn't possible. So let's bring us up to speed here. What I am doing is I'm juggling the class between Wednesday and Sunday, where, of course, not everybody is on the Wednesday class. So I just go back, and I always go back anyway, even if I'm giving the class to the same people. But let's just begin the story where, because we've told it so many times, but let's move up a little bit to the point where Krishna's father, who is Anaka Dundabi. Dundabi means bum, 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 kettle drums, some glory. When he was born, the demigods were celebrating because it's a great personality that was born. And that great personality would be a very determined person. So even though his wife was in the clutches of Kamsa, who was ready to kill her due to the Akashvani, the prediction, the unembodied voice in the sky, he, with his determination and his penetration, he brought his intelligence as far as possible. And finally, he convinced Kamsa that it's not necessary to kill his wife, that he'll just give the children. He'll just give the children to Kamsa when they're born. And it's just incredibly, and because his reasoning was Kamsa may die, this may happen, that a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. They have that expression. So let me just save my wife first. And then he was just so fearful of being a liar because of his samskara, his attachment, his good samskara to always be truthful. He wouldn't lie. And what is so painful, and then he just thought, and okay, the eighth child is Krishna. So I guess my service is to bring Krishna in the world. I have to have 7 other children first. And whatever will be, will be. And then that statement where he says in his mind, what is too difficult for an honest man in the execution of his duty? It's so much missing in the present age, that kind of character, that it's almost hard for us to even imagine it. So anyway, Kamsa actually, Kamsa, he saw his sincerity. There's not just words. You can understand a person's mind not by his words, but just by the conviction in what he speaks, because the words carry our heart. And also by his actions, his expressions. Kamsa saw that he was serious. And maybe by all that effort by Vasudeva, challenging Kamsa's heinous action, maybe gave him just a little bit pacified, just to be able to think clearly, well, maybe this is a better plan. And later he's going to actually, again, realize that when Krishna is born, when Devaki's pregnant with Krishna, he starts to think in those terms. My God, a woman, my sister, I was going to kill her in marriage. Now she's pregnant. And then, he was a little bit more thoughtful. Let's wait till the child be born, because when you do something so heinous, it ruins your life. It ruins your reputation. That carries into your next life. And you go to hell. And you go to hell. So somehow or other he kind of thought, okay, I'll give them. But Vasudeva didn't trust him, because character means honesty, and it means to adhere to your words and to have the control to do so. And Kamsa had neither. So he could flip on a dime, they say. He can change in a second. So, what happened is, so he did bring the child, and Kamsa said, okay, I see. So Vasudeva was still a little bit hesitant to trust. And just imagine how Kamsa can trust him because of that conviction. The power of truthfulness. The power of truthfulness in the Yoga Sutras is mentioned that one's words cannot be denied. The power of one's words cannot be denied. So there's a power. There is a power when you follow regulations. When you say, I will not steal, I will not lie, I will not commit violence, the yamas, the niyamas, the principles you determine in terms of yourself, the principle you determine how you deal with others. The universe reciprocates with internal consciousness. So hayagya praja shrishva parovacha prajapati anena pasavishyadvam esha vo twishta kamaduk. When you make sacrifice, anena pasavishyadvam yagya. That is, the universe reciprocates. It's the whole idea between sacrifice. The universe, it has purpose. The whole purpose of this world is enjoyment and liberation, and enjoyment is for liberation because you become frustrated of it. You become disconnected from the soul, and then you seek liberation. So either way, the universe moves in that way. So Kamsa, Vasudeva had that power. They said still, he's influenced now, but he could switch. And then sure enough, Narada Muni came and said that the prediction is that the demons will be killed and that the demigods are taking birth everywhere, even among your advisors. Narada also had this vision that Krishna will appear. And therefore he instituted the 6 children to be killed, but also understanding that these are the manifestations actually of Kamsa sons in his last life, who happened to be manifestations of the archetypal mind of a Marichi, and it was lust, greed, anger, etc. So Kamsa immediately shackled Krishna's parents. He killed that child. He immediately shackled Krishna's parents, and then because he understood that the demigods had taken birth and that he started to consolidate power. He started to consolidate power and make alliances with people who had the same objectives as he had. And then at this particular point, the people in the Yadu dynasty, they just started to take shelter and hide in different places, as happens. And Vasudeva, who had many wives, he sent him to Vrindavan, which is a little bit of an obscure village in one sense compared to Mathura. He's under the protection of Nanda Maharaj. Of course, some of the Yadu stayed, specifically Akrura, and we discussed that before, that he had some service to do, which is a great example because Akrura gets to see Krishna. But look what he endured. 12 years. 12 years. For you Democrats, it would be like to see Krishna. You had to serve Donald Trump for 12 years. And if you're Republicans, you'd have to, it's like serving Hillary Clinton for 12 years. And he was so sincere. He just said, this is my objective. And he also had other things. So then, because Krishna, already told Lord Brahma that he's going to appear. And so then we're getting the vision, because this whole story is told by Sukadeva Goswami because Maharaj Parikshit wants to hear. Your enthusiasm for Krishna your devotion for Krishna is manifest in your desire to hear. And your desire to hear, reflecting your heart of devotion, is what attracts the mercy of Krishna. I've been staying here at Jackson. He's really made a nice little place, and these people who became devotees, they two of them come on Thursday. One was just a housewife who was searching for God and also wanted to get her hair done and wound up in the hair salon of getting her hair done by Lal Govinda, who somehow are invited to the program. So there now the housewife is sitting there with Jack. And of course, some of you know Pat. She's a very wonderful lady. I'm not sure how she came. And they read the Bhagavatam for like an hour. And they're just absorbed and amazed. of just reading it together and discussing the points. And I have my own little quarters, but I had to get some tea, and towards the end they were finished. I walked by and I just said, it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And I quoted the verse, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Canto Krishna punya shravana kirtana hidyantasto yabhadrani vidanoti saritsatam. That Krishna, when he sees Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Canto Krishna, when the punya shravana kirtana, when he sees the devotees discussing his glories, punya shravana kirtana, it creates some real piety in the heart. Hidyantasto, abhadrani, it's so auspicious for the heart. Why? Vidanoti, saritsatam, because Krishna becomes pleased and he purifies the heart. All our problems are the heart, our minds, and what we're desiring. And Krishna purifies the heart. So Krishna then, so Maharaj Prickett, I say he's hearing him. So now Krishna's, Sukadev's continuing with the story, and what happens is Krishna orders Yogamaya, Parasya Shaktir Vividhaya Shruyate. He has multifarious energies, and he orders Yogamaya to go and to make all arrangements, go to, and I think it's this, go to Nanda Gokula, this beautiful land with all the cows, and you protect the devotees who are fearful, and you remove their fear, because what yoga maya, yoga means the link. It's the energy that links you to Krishna. And that's what removes our fear. Because when we're linked to Krishna, we understand our eternal nature. And therefore we're free from the dualities, bayam dvitiya, that arise, the dualities that arise from this disconnection from Krishna. Bayam dvitiya viniveshita syat, from this disconnection from Krishna. And relieve the fear by connection to Krishna. Again, these are very, very practical lessons in the modern world. I've never seen such uncertainty manifest in my life as now. There's so much instability. And that's really frightening, because yeah, you like to know where your shelter, maintenance, and life. We want to know what's going on, and when it's uncertain, there's fear. So come to that beautiful land, and you transfer Balaram from Devakī. And then in the previous purport, it was very beautiful to explain how this Devakī represents bhakti. She's bhakti. And the garbha-saṅkarṣaṇāt, the 6 previous sons of Kamsa in his last life, which were lust, anger, greed, fear, illusion. There's one other, madness. They're killed by kamsa, and kamsa represents material fear. If you don't get it by hearing, you'll get it by fear. We should all be afraid. The only thing we should be afraid of is the material existence and our allurement to illusion by how we relate with it. That's our real fear. Our real fear is forgetting Krishna. Yeah, because, I was just thinking today, I was on the phone. I was texting with Buri Jan Prabhu, a good friend, a mentor almost. And then he's, after so many years now, because of COVID, he's going to Vrindavan, and he has this retreat center. And somehow they've been working on it for 10, 15 years, and it's going to open up. This beautiful retreat center. But it's big. I think they must have about 15, 20 acres or something. It's on the side of Govardhan, and everything's first class. But he's not going to have a room there. I said, well, you're not going to have a room there for? And then he told me this story. Ramesh Baba had this Gokula. It still does, has about 30,000 cows. And when you go on top of, I forgot which of the hills in Barsana, and you look over, you can see the padaduli, the dust of these cows. And he said it, but the person at the Gokula who runs the Gokula won't take a drop of milk because he doesn't want his service to be motivated. There are devotees. Can you imagine that? It's producing thousands of gallons of milk. He won't take a drop because he doesn't want his service to be motivated. So Burijan was taking that example. Spending so much effort for 15 years. He said he'll stay when there's retreats. Otherwise, he'll have to find some other place to stay. I was trying to convince him to, take a room for yourself. But what I was thinking of, he must be near 75 because he was always older than me. And I'm going to see Keshava Bharti Maharaj. He must be 75. And in the Puriyatra, my godbrother Drishta came and he said, yeah, the old man was 70. So anyway, and then Krishna tells Yogamaya, then I will appear as the 8th child, and you will appear as my sister, and also as the Shakti, and names all the different places where Yogamaya manifests as Durga. When Yogamaya manifests in the material world, is called Durga. Ga means difficult, Dur means to go. A place which is difficult to go is like a fort. Believe it or not, when we're in the material world, it's like a prison house. It's very difficult to go. We don't have freedom. Freedom is when you follow the law. We're in the prison because we don't follow the law. Durga. I remember one time a godbrother of mine it was Kirtanananda. At that time, he was quite what they call laconic. Laconic is a term where he'd say a few words with a lot of meaning. And somehow I think he got arrested in Pakistan preaching, and then he got out in Vrindavan, and we greeted him. We said, oh, it must have been very difficult. It must be very difficult to be in the prison house. He said, well, the real prison house is the material world. And what's the question of prison house for one who knows he's not this body? Okay, so now we'll follow the story more. Thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yoga Maya immediately agreed, I read this, with the Vedic mantra, Om, confirmed that she would do what he asked. Thus, having accepted the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she circumambulated him and started for the place known on earth as Nanda Gokula. Oh, it just sounds so nice to say Nanda Gokula. My separation is definitely increasing for Vrindavan. I can't wait. There, she did everything just as she was told. So it's interesting that yes means Om. And Om indicates Vedic confirmation. Yes, this is true. I will do. So when she heard the order of Krishna, she accepted it at Yogamaya as Vedic injunction. We must do this. This is the law. This is the rule. This is the order. And I'm accepting it because on that level, there are no defects. On the level of the Vedic injunctions, there's no defect. So, but basically saying, yes, I'm accepting it. Not only when I'm doing it, but because you've said it, I'm accepting it as true. And then always the pleasure, the anubhav, the expressions of devotion that come from a servant is accepting the order. Accepting the order. It's an expression of the ecstasy of Dasyaras. It's like, I remember listening to that tape in 1966, over 50 years ago, and what the Lower East Side was, First Avenue, and Prabhupada's in this storefront, and he's hearing screeching outside and arguing, and he's living in the Lower East Side.
One sec. I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Let's go on this thing open. I don't know how these things work. He was just in the Lower East Side, and he was just thinking, why have I come to this place? Why have I come to this place? Why have I come to this place? And then he's meditating and thinking he was in Vrindavan. He's from an aristocratic Bengali family. He's retired. What is he doing in the Lower East Side of Manhattan? It's so incongruous with everything he is, except for one thing. And therefore he said, why I've come to this place? It was the order of my spiritual master. That was his ecstasy. It was the order of my spiritual master. And therefore it is Vedic injunction. It's absolutely true. And I should live by the truth. When the child Devakī was attracted and transferred into the womb of Rohiṇī by Yogamaya, Devakī seemed to have a miscarriage. Thus all the inhabitants of the palace, all the inhabitants of the palace loudly declared, alas, Devakī has lost her child. So all the inhabitants of the palace includes Kamsa. When everyone lamented, Kamsa joined in compassion, thinking that perhaps because of drugs or some external means, Devakī had undergone this abortion. The real story of what happened after Yogamaya attracted the child of Devakī into the womb in the 7th month of Rohiṇī's pregnancy is described as follows in the Harivamsa. At midnight, Rohiṇī was deeply sleeping. She experienced as if in a dream that she had undergone a miscarriage. After some time, when she awoke, she saw that this had indeed happened, and she was in great anxiety. But Yogamaya then informed her, "O auspicious lady, your child is now being replaced. I'm tracking a child from the womb of Devakī, and therefore your child will be known as Saṅkarṣaṇa." Thus, the Supreme Personality of God, who is the super soul of all living entities and who vanquishes all fear of his devotees, entered the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence. So now Balabhadraṁ has been born, and now somehow or other the next child enters, the 8th child enters into the mind. Big Srila Viragavacharya also says that Vasudeva was one of the demigods, and that within his mind, the Supreme Personality of God had appeared as an awakening of consciousness. This is the opinion of Srila Swami. There was no need for discharge of semen. That, in the opinion, this is the opinion of Sridhar Swami and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. In the Vaishnav Toshani, Srila Sanatana Goswami says that consciousness was awakened within the mind of Vasudeva. So for the devotee, Krishna's appearance, he appears in consciousness because he's already there within the heart of every living entity. So he awakens in the consciousness. And therefore, that consciousness of Vishuddha Sattva, of pure consciousness, the consciousness which attracts Krishna to manifest, Vishuddha Sattvam Vasudeva Shabditam. Vishuddha Sattvam Vasudeva Shabditam. That's called Vasudeva consciousness. So, and again, who vanquishes fear. Fear is illusion. Therefore, there is nothing to fear but fear itself. I believe that was Franklin Delano Roosevelt during the war. He was actually like a leader who can. Those days when you had leaders, you may not agree with their policies. My parents, that was their idol. But they were leaders. Winston Churchill, they were leaders. So he said, nothing to fear but fear itself. Because all our problems are perceptual and they're not actual. So if you get pure vision, you don't have any problems. So Krishna vanquishes fear when you turn to God. When you turn to God, there's no fear. And then I've told this story before about my mother's cousin, Rabbi Alexander Good, who was a chaplain on the USS Dorchester, and the ship sunk, and the chaplains got other people off first. There weren't enough lifeboats, and people lived. And they saw that ship go down. It was sunk by a U-2 torpedo from the... And they were arm in arm singing the Psalms of David. If you want to be fearless at the time of death, then chant here and remember God. Because the only fear is in the dream. While carrying the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the core of his heart, Vasudeva bore the Lord's transcendental illuminating effulgence, and thus he became as bright as the sun. He was therefore very difficult to see or approach through sensory perception. Indeed, he was unapproachable and unperceivable even for such formidable men as Kamsa, and not only for Kamsa, but all living entities. So that's an interesting thing, that something becomes bright and is difficult to see, and it's like the sun. You can't see it, you can't stare at it. So this is the analogy used. And I think in the purport explains the form. And the form is called Dhamma. He appeared, the Dhamma, the place where the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides. In the beginning of the Bhagavatam 1:1, it is said, Dhamna svena sada narasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. In the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's no influence of material energy. Any place where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present by his name, form, qualities, or paraphernalia immediately becomes a Dham. For example, we speak of Vrindavan Dham, Dwaraka Dham, Mathura Dham, because in these places, the name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia of the Supreme Lord are eternally present. Similarly, if one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do something, the core of his heart becomes a Dhamma, and thus he becomes so extraordinarily powerful that not only his enemies, but also people in general are astonished to observe his activities. Because he is unapproachable, his enemies are simply struck with wonder, as explained here by the words, Rasado, Tadur Dara, Tadur Darsha. Thereafter, accompanied by plenary expansions, the fully opulent Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is all auspicious for the entire universe, was transferred from the mind of Devakī, transferred the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devakī. Devakī, having thus been initiated by Vasudeva, became beautiful by carrying the Supreme Lord, Krishna, the original consciousness for everyone, the cause of all causes, within the core of our heart, just as the East becomes beautiful by carrying the rising sun. So it actually says, he appeared by One second. Okay, the word manasta, the Supreme Personality of God, was transferred from the core of Vasudev's mind or heart to the core of the heart of Devakī. We should note carefully that the Lord was transferred to Devakī not by the ordinary way of a human being, but by diksha, initiation. Thus, the importance of initiation is mentioned. Unless one is initiated by the right person who always carries within his heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot acquire the power to carry the Supreme Lord within the core of one's heart. So, Vasudeva has the consciousness and can transfer the consciousness. He can transfer that consciousness, that commitment. Devakī then kept herself, the Supreme Person, and kept within herself the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, foundation of the entire cosmos. But because she was under the arrest in the house of Kamsa, she was like the flames of a fire covered by the walls of a pot, or like a person who has knowledge but cannot distribute it to the world for the benefit of society. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead was within her womb, Devakī illuminated the entire atmosphere in the place where she was confined. Seeing her jubilant, pure, and smiling, Kamsa thought, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who is now within her, with her, will kill me. Devakī has never looked so brilliant and jubilant. Kamsa thought, what is my duty now? The Supreme Lord, who knows his purpose, will not give up his prowess. Devakī is a woman. She is my sister. And moreover, she is now pregnant. If I kill her, my reputation, opulence, and duration of life will certainly be vanquished. A person who is very cruel is regarded as dead even while living. For while he is living or after his death, everyone condemns him. But after the death of a person in the bodily concept of life, he is undoubtedly transferred to the hell known as Adatama. Sukadeva Goswami continued, deliberating in this way, Kamsa, although determined to continue in enmity towards the Supreme Lord, refrained from the vicious killing of his sister. He decided to wait until the Lord was born and then do what was needed. Okay, now the demigods are going to come, and a lot of things to do today. First of all, it started Chaturmasya, and it's nice to add a little devotion. So I've added substantial devotional activities, and then finishing the Monday morning greetings. And then I will be traveling. And therefore I had to wake up early with not that much sleep. So I realized we finished at a nice section. Shamunajaya, are you still there, or did you have to go to?
No, right. I had just enough time talking about Yogamaya. Here I am at the new Yogamaya.
Are you in Yogamaya now?
Yeah, we're back in person. So this is the new Yogamaya.
Is it much smaller?
It's one room. This room is much smaller. The big room is much bigger. And she was able to take all the beautiful wood. The wood doors are still there. beautiful picture of Krishna, and Hanuman is still there. So it doesn't have the big lobby, as a much smaller lobby than it used to, but it still feels like Yogamaya.
Is it, well, if you don't, those of you don't know that Yogamaya was probably instrumental in the resurgence of Krishna consciousness, because it was really the first yoga studio to really preach Krishna consciousness. And I met the owner, Bryn, in India. It's always nice to meet someone in India. And then she had a nice spiritual experience, and she said, when we open, you have to help me. So she had a meeting of the initial committee, and she invited me to speak or something at her home. And then I was initially like the spiritual mentor, and we started our teacher trainings with Bhakti. This is where the first kirtans were happening before the Bhakti Center, where Gauravani and all these people came. And in the first teacher training, Jamuna Jaya was there, right?
Yes, I met you on my first day of training, Maharaj.
Right, and also Saibel.
Mm-hmm.
Who else that became devotees?
Lisa Bermudez.
Lisa Bermudez, I'm still in contact with her, became a devotee.
Yeah, Patrick Franco out in New Jersey.
Has the yoga studio called Devotion.
Yeah. Also, let's see, Joy. Do you remember Joy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the Joy and Bryn were at Kinshana's wedding in Vrindavan. Yeah. Who else?
Yeah. Katie. Do you remember Katie Pacha?
Of course.
Yeah. She's moved to California now, but she
was also it came to Vrindavan. I also saw her in Vrindavan. So from there, we used to have incredible Radhanath Swami would come. Yep. Our teacher trainings were amazing, and I would give the Bhakti section. Yeah, it was really special.
We're back in person.
No, I'm really happy to see that. Is it going well, Yogamaya?
It's growing. It's growing. We're online, and now we're back open. So things are going, like the class I'm about to teach now, it's getting bigger. So little by little, people are starting to come back inside.
Not as big as it was.
No, but that's to be expected. But I think in the fall, things will definitely pick back up.
Okay, what is your realization?
So my realization was when you said about FDR, nothing to fear but fear itself. And I just was struck by, he's probably like the only president that actually really knew fear because of what went on with his body. His body had betrayed him. And so I always think about him as perhaps that's why he had such leadership, is because he had to detach from the bodily conception, because there he was a man that couldn't walk, but he must have had some conviction. So when you were saying that, I was like, he probably did know fear, but knew that it could be overcome by spirit. So
good. Can we take a little tour? Is it possible?
Sure. I'll walk you over. So this is this room.
What room? What is that room called?
So this is called the sun room.
The sun room.
And then this is I'll take you back. What people see when they get off the elevator, you'll recognize those doors.
It does look like the old Yogamaya.
Yeah. There's the goddess Saraswati. She's still here. And then the screen.
Yeah, that looks familiar.
And then these are dressing rooms and a back hallway. And now I'll show you the big room. You remember the doors?
Right.
And then this is the big room.
Wow.
Yeah. Getting a virtual tour.
Okay.
So the big room, as you can see, Raj, is very large. Yeah. Okay. So it looks very much. The only thing we don't have anymore is the window frames.
Okay. If you see Bryn, tell her I send my regards.
I will. She'll be teaching the class after me today, so I will give you your regards.
Tell her that watch my class from the Yoga Maya. So
yeah, she knows.
What?
She knows I do. She knows I'm always here early so I could listen to your class before I teach.
Okay. Okay.
She's giving
Haribo.
me the keys so I can let myself in.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Anybody else have a reflection or like to say hello?
Oh, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Today, my goodness, I'm in anxiety because I have so many questions and I know we don't have time.
Oh, give me one. Give me one of the questions. We're still. It's not
okay.
even.
This Vasudha Sattvam that Vasudeva had, we never speak about it in terms of Nanda Maharaj. So I'm just wondering if it's because Nanda is like eternally Krishna's father, and I don't know that Vasudeva is. Also in this connection,
I just think because in the Lila, the Lila is describing that it came to, Krishna appeared in Vasudeva and was transferred in that way. So Krishna is born to Vasudeva and then transferred. So therefore it's called that. I mean, I don't think it's denigrating Nanda Maharaj at all, but in the Lila, and what is the Bhagavatam? It's meant to communicate to people the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. It's not just, giving every little detail what Nanda was doing and etc. But the Leelas are unlimited. They're unlimited, the Leelas. So, it's just picking a fraction of them and to give a description of Krishna's life. So this is just such an important point of he awakened in his consciousness. Okay.
But even that point of transferring one's consciousness, it just reminds me of the fact that we are individuals with free will. So doesn't that, when we say transfer consciousness, are we really saying influence consciousness, or what actually do we mean by transferring one's consciousness?
All I can say here, it says that Krishna appeared, and how he transferred it wasn't by seminal discharge. It was somehow this transfer of consciousness. I don't know how it actually happened. In
the Guru Parampara, right? When that transfer of consciousness is what happens from guru to disciple, right? It's not like the telephone game. So isn't it the same kind of thing?
And Krishna's birth and the Leela, etc. So it's analogous to this, right? One is analogous to the other. So it's transferred. Yes. So yeah, it's just an analogy. I don't know if it's exactly the same thing because it doesn't say there in the purple what actually happened. All that it says is that the consciousness attracted Krishna. So that's the first part. We need someone whose consciousness attracted Krishna. How they exactly transfer it to us. But Vishuddha Sattva actually is interesting. What Vishuddha Sattva means is the internal potency of God. So the internal potency is Samvit Ladini Shakti. And it's described that when you have the consciousness to actually understand your relationship with God, Krishna, and to understand your relationship with Krishna, it is Krishna's Shakti or energy that actually descends on the consciousness and spiritualizes it in a way. But this is on the platform of God. I mean, his will is an absolute fact. He doesn't have to walk over to one place or another. He can just manifest. It's not under the material laws, like seminal discharge, some fluid comes from one to another. God doesn't have to go through mechanical things. Even when Krishna is walking, he does go from one place to another, but it's not necessarily that he has to walk. He just appears in one place. And then the walking is also there. if he wants. It's also there in the Lila. He walks from one place to another. Did he actually walk? Yes. Did he actually walk? No. His will is an absolute fact. So the
transference to Devakī, the consciousness, that the transfer of consciousness to Devakī,
yeah,
means what?
It means don't think of it as a material thing, that God has to walk along a ray from one to another. Like I'm just saying, seminal discharge means there's actually a physical thing that's transferred. So what happens here, it's in a different realm. It's just it can be the realm of will. Mayad yakshena prakriti suyate sa chara charam. Krishna's determination is an absolute fact.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a different realm. And I don't think it can be exactly analogous to the, material distances and material movement.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Maharaj. I guess I'll have to save the rest for next time.
Okay, I will. Anybody else?
So thank you for mentioning the 4 chaplains. I had to go and read a little bit about Rabbi Good. I mean, what an amazing story that is of those people. They don't even make people like that anymore. It's just such an amazing
Isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah.
And I remember it's St. Albans, you introduced that, when you were speaking at St. Albans to the students and the teachers, when you started talking about the 4 chaplains, the kids' ears perked up like anything, because you had a great war story for them. And it's like, it's got everything,
Yeah, I'll tell people here the story. Henry was involved with the place he went to school, which was called St. Albans. And it was a school, like the vice president's children went there when Henry went there, Vice President Mondale. And it was the aristocracy, very people from other countries. And it was, and it was the Washington Cathedral, which is a 20-acre place. I think it must rival the Notre Dame Cathedral. It probably took hundreds of years to build. And it was like, and the school, they would have like a gathering in like a little church room, especially for the school, with pews and everything. And they'd have a chaplain that would actually speak. So somehow Henry arranged that I addressed the assembly, and Henry was sitting in the back, kind of a little nervous. And I'm there, it was very formal too. And, you're sitting on these wood chairs, like, I'm sitting on this wood platform, this like chair, and then I get to the podium and it's all formal and, all the students. And then I had the perfect like opening, because there was a stained glass window in the church, which included my uncle and the 4 chaplains. And I told that story, and that, it encouraged the students to, encourage the students that, to have sacrifice and discipline and faith. And I remember, the faculty loved it, the students loved it. And afterwards I was shaking their hands. They were coming up to see me, and Henry was in the back in absolute ecstasy. I remember he was sitting in the back. And then after that, I think I taught the religion classes that day too. That was fun, Henry. That was fun. I have, I think, even an old, I have a written thing somewhere of what my speech was. I'll read it the next class.
The audio, there's an audio tape of it that's somewhere, actually.
Can you find it?
Well, I know Raji can find it, yet I could maybe find it.
Let's see. It was really, Krishna empowered me. It was
so miraculous. It was so miraculous. I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, and I remember even the next year I came back and people shook my hands in the hallway, and
you were famous. You made yourself. You became famous, at St. Albans that day.
We can go with many stories. The time you took me to that history class, and we wanted to keep low key.
And then there was a fire alarm. So like I'm trying to take you to a class and I don't want everybody to see me walking with the sannyasi. I don't know. I guess I was anyway. And we snuck in the back door and then there was a fire alarm and at the school. So then when there's a fire alarm, everybody has to go out and stand in the main circle. It was a fire drill, of course.
Yeah.
And but the headmaster and anybody visiting the school has to stand in the middle of the circle. So the headmaster and you and I were in the middle of the circle for 15 minutes chatting while the entire school had to stand quietly and watch us. Who could arrange that,
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My mother, there's a book on that my mother had too. She used to go speak about it because they were dedicating swimming pools and churches and so many things. So she used to speak about that. But it's impressive because the story is you can't survive because the ship got sunk by Greenland, and so it's freezing cold. And if you didn't have gloves, like heavy gloves, you couldn't survive even on the lifeboats. So one young man was running out. One young man was running out, and he was running back in, and he said, "Rabbi, I have to get my gloves." And the rabbi knew that if he went in, it would be too dangerous. He said, "Here, take these gloves." He said, "I can't take your gloves." And he said, "Well, I have another pair." And then the guy survived, and he realized that my uncle had kind of lied. Those were his only gloves. But the scene of them, 4 chaplains, arm in arm, singing the something. You're right. They don't make them anymore like that. Whoop. Your sound is off, Henry.
Okay, the last thing I saw was the 4 chaplains were all up there praying for the safety of the men. They had done everything they could. They were linked in arms on the bow of the ship praying as it went down. They'd given away their gloves, their life jackets and everything. I mean, it's one of the most famous stories in American history.
Wow. Yes, Henry Little, right. There were good people. There were good people with character. That's great. Thanks a lot, Henry. This was a great remembrance, Haridas. Okay, good. Anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here.
Haribo, Tota.
Haribo.
I'll send you the information about Monday. Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Slal Govinda.
And Braja, thank you for class.
Thank you for class.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the class.
Haribo. Wonderful to see you. Good. Great.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Great. Who else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thanks for the class.
Oh, Haribo. Radhika.
Thank you, Maharaj.
How are you doing in your English studies? And
Maharaj, to be honest, I realized that I'm not ready yet, so I just postponed it, and I'm just studying all day and night.
All day and night. And you have a posting in a school in England, or you have to apply after that?
I did apply previously, and I got accepted in a university, but then I went to email them and tell them I'm not coming this year. So perhaps I can come to India and visit you there. And I'm looking forward to it.
I fear that you just deliberately did that.
No.
Irresponsibly, so that you can go to India.
No.
That's
not true.
I know you. Okay. Anybody else? Say hello. Okay. Okay, I see the nice list of people that came. Now I just have to get ready to travel today. Okay, thank you. Vanchakopa Thurubhishchakapis.